want to talk.
You want to talk?
You're listening to Black Fawn Distro's Takeover Tuesday, the official podcast of Black Fawn Distribution, broadcasting live across the planet and retransmitted on all major streaming platforms. Tonight's program is brought to you in part by Wellies and Breweries, Hellas Lager, Deadly Grounds Coffee, Twisted Teas, and of course Canada's #1 genre film company, Black Fawn Distribution. You wanted the best. Well, they didn't make it, so here's what you get.
It's really not that bad.
You are going to hell.
Here's your host, Benner from Black Fawn Distro.
Hey everyone, how's it going? It's Benner from Black Fawn Distro, and welcome back to another edition of Takeover Tuesday. Of course, this is the official podcast of Black Fawn Distro. We've been away for a while, and of course, joining me as always is my co-host. I guess we work together now all the time, which is great. But Kells McNells has some videotapes has to return some videotapes. That's a great, awesome shout out to our very first episode of 90s Night, which we reviewed, American Psycho. So Kells, welcome back. Thanks for doing this as always again. How you been? What's new?
I'm surviving. No, I'm doing well. Everything's good. Happy to be here. Excited to return some videotapes finally. I've been having them in my basement for far too long. I'm excited for tonight. Again, it's been a minute since we've been here, so this is exciting to be back, be live, have some comments coming in. Please throw them up whenever you're ready, everyone. Comment, etc. We'll pop them in. Happy to chat with everybody. So yeah. How are you, Benner?
Pretty good. Before I tell everyone what's new, we have some format changes. I feel like we always have some format changes, but just a quick shout out to everyone. We're broadcasting live to YouTube. That's always going to be the case. And whatever other platforms will have us, there's all kinds of like streaming keys and live keys. If you're checking us out on Twitch or Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or whatever, if you can see us, then that's fantastic. But they've made it increasingly hard to do that. YouTube's where it's at. It's usually the best place to check out all of our content. And I'll get to that in a second. But we're also retransmitting to all the major streaming platforms, including Apple and Spotify, as usual. So you'll be able to check out the audio on those platforms as well. And of course, if you have a second, please like, follow, share, and subscribe. Like this video, smash the bell, ring the button. I don't know what you do anymore. But if you want to go the extra mile, tell your friends or tell people that you know about our channel. Ask them to subscribe. It helps us out, and also as well the people that we have on the show. And just a quick shout out to our sponsors just off the top. Want to let everyone know about Deadly Grounds Coffee. Yes, they still are sponsoring the program, but they have rebranded recently. So they're rebranding into Coffin Creek Coffee Co., which Kells, you as a fan of alliteration, I know, love that name, or I'm just going to assume you love that name. We've actually haven't officially talked about it, but for all intents and purposes, I'd say you're probably a big fan of the alliteration used in that. But of course, Brad over at Coffin Creek, we just haven't been able to redo our intro, but that is coming. But have no fear. We're not changing the delicious taste of the coffee. It's just the name that's changing from Deadly Grounds to Coffin Creek. So I felt obligated to let everyone know that, of course. And hey, listen, we've got a great program for you tonight as we have Kevin Martin live. He is in the green room right now, just chilling out. He is actually doing this. He's going to do this broadcast tonight live from his store, The Lobby, which is in Edmonton, Alberta. And of course, he just closed because they're 2 hours behind us. So it closes at 6 o'clock, I believe. So he'll be with us momentarily. But of course, before we get there, we got to do some. What's the segment called? I can't remember. It's
New Thrills and Fresh Kills.
Here we go. We'll be right back.
Here we go.
Top story. Top story.
We'll give you the world. We'll give you the world.
This may be the most important decision of your life.
Can't stand the heat. Get out of the kitchen.
Any special message for all the kids watching at home?
You can't stand the heat. Get out of the kitchen.
Top story.
Remember, we care. There are certain inherent risks that come with the territory.
Top story. Top story.
We'll give you the word.
Top story.
Okay,
There's
that's our
a-
overly long news intro, but I love it. And for anybody out there, I'm going to ask Kevin if he can actually. Kevin, I know you're listening in the green room. Big thumbs up. If you can tell me where we got some of those audio clips for that little thing. I know he knows. I haven't told him, but I guarantee you he'll know right off the hop. So no pressure, Kev. Yeah, okay. So like, let's talk some news. Top story, Kells. What do you got for us?
The top story, I think, on every horror fan's lips, eyes, mind right now is The Substance, which has been nominated for 5 Academy Awards, including the big 3: Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Screenplay. This is actually the 7th horror film to be nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars, period. So this is making history. It's fantastic that it's female directed, female led, directed, of course, by Courtney Farge, who also did Revenge, which is a phenomenal film on Shudder. If you have not seen it, strongly recommend. But that's a very exciting news, I think, for every genre fan to have a little bit of the genre recognized on the big stage in the awards ceremonies, because I feel like we're often overlooked. Forever pouring one out for Toni Collette for Hereditary for not getting a nomination there, robbed.
Not
But
even getting a nomination.
not even a nomination. So rude. But I think that because that oversight, this is very exciting to see this film kind of clean up in the categories at the Oscars. So I'm very excited. I hope it wins at least 4 things, if not 5. I think it deserves all of them, but that's just me.
And Demi Moore got nominated for Best Actress too.
She did, absolutely, yeah.
I saw her,
which again, well deserved.
Yeah, and I saw her acceptance speech at the Golden Globes because she just won the Golden Globe for The Substance. Like what a speech! Like what a awesome career actress who has put in her time repeatedly on so many movies. And sort of like it was like the whole narrative here is that she took a risk on this movie, thinking that she was very, very like, I haven't seen it yet. So this is on my Oscar list of things to see. I know. It's not because I don't want to. It's just because I ran out of time at the end of the year last year, but I'm going to watch it before the Oscars for sure.
Until then.
Yeah, I know. But like, I got stuff to do, man. I got stuff to do. Yeah, I mean, I think that, I don't know. I just feel like the whole narrative was that she said that she's never been recognized for anything, any of her acting roles or anything like that really ever. And this was sort of the first award that she's ever received, which is such a cool kind of story. So a little bit of a redemption arc, I think, or maybe not a redemption arc, but a long overdue acknowledgement, I think, for her contributions to cinema, at least over the last 20-30 years. So pretty awesome and beyond, I guess, because I guess she was acting before 30 years ago. So
and it's also like thematically appropriate with The Substance, which you would understand had you seen the film. But you'll get there, I believe in you.
I've been working on some stuff. No, I will let you know.
Some videotapes.
Yeah. Well, listen, speaking of stuff that we've been busy on,
yes,
we've got we have 4 different formats on the on our YouTube channel. So that's going to be our main hub for anything video, any of the video content that we release. That includes movie trailers, and of course clips from the movies that we release as Black Fawn Distro, and of course shows like this, Takeover Tuesday, which is our interview show, will be housed there, along with your review show, which is Streams and Screams, of course, Kells, which you're kicking the crap out of me on our contest. I think you're winning 25 to 7. We'll make sure that we keep a regular total going for our listeners and our viewers, our tally, the scoreboard. Of course, it's not about the score, Kells. It's about how the game's played. But the scoreboard does tell you how you are playing the game. So anyway, but what I will say is, yes, we do also have our 90s night program. So this is the latest episode that we've put out is on 7, which is David Fincher's masterpiece. We had a lot to say about this film, and of course, just dropped on 4K from, I believe, Warner Brothers. But listen, we're not sponsored by Warner Brothers. We're not sponsored by any of the companies other than the ones that we that intro the show here. But the 4K release was something else to kind of take in, and we had a lot of stuff to say about that movie. And of course, I'm bringing back Benner's movie reviews. That's right, I'm Benner, and I do movie reviews sometimes, although I haven't done one in a long time. But I don't have it's not a secret. I'm going to be doing Nosferatu. So that'll be posted up very, very shortly. Check that out as well. And then every now and again, we are going to have our Hot Stove from Hell. Yes. Which is essentially just a panel show. We're going to have a rotating number of guests that are just going to pop on, or whoever. Maybe Kevin Martin will be one of those guests. And we'll talk. I'm not committing to him to anything. He's going to come. I wouldn't be surprised if he just leaves. We just see him duck out of the green room. We have no interview coming up. Overcommitting him to too many things. But of course, we wanted to kind of we wanted to continue that show, because last time we did it on Long Legs. We had Vicky, Makeup Billy, come on, and it was such a fun experience where we just shoot the breeze about a kind of a film. Hey, maybe we'll do it on The Substance as an Oscar sort of episode, Kells.
I would love that.
All right. Anyway, you have, as usual, now on our 90s night, you do a creepy cocktail for every episode that we do. And you decided to do one tonight because, no one tells you what to do, right?
Yeah. I've been trying to do them for the takeovers, and also I will continue to try and do them for the hot stoves, just because I feel like I can't let myself slip. And also it's a good excuse to duck into my liquor cabinet and play around in there a little bit. So for tonight, I don't think it's glittery. It should be glittery, but it's not really working so well. I have the Be Kind Rewind, which is a combination of black vodka, cherry liqueur, grape juice, and edible glitter, which you can't really see on here, but it's there, and it's delicious.
That's amazing. Taste test. I know you've already tried it out, but
very good. My tongue may be purple by the end of the show, but we're great.
Can you do the thing? Can you do the production value that you have over there? No, not that one. The other one.
Not that one?
Yeah.
So, no, wait. There we go.
Is it that one? Yeah, because the little glitter. There you go.
There we go. Production value.
Now I gotta say, just now, listen. I did dry January, and I've decided to do a bit of a half of a dry February. So I'm doing like a month and a half, 50 days to be exact. I don't know why, it just sounded cool. So I'm not drinking yet, which, of course, apparently I'm maybe never drinking bourbon again. Who knows? But what I have found over the holidays is I found, and we're not sponsored by this company whatsoever. Okay. But there's a story behind this, but the Coca-Cola spiced Coca-Cola. Okay. Which kind of tastes like Dr. Pepper. It's a raspberry spiced flavored cola. And I felt it was appropriate because we're doing video store tonight, last video store. And of course, talking about Kevin's own store, The Lobby. I love Coca-Cola. It's so much better than Pepsi, so much better. And this is kind of like, it's almost like a Dr. Pepper. Anyway, I'm addicted. I love these things. Yeah. And I recently found out that nobody else does, and they're discontinuing the line. So I've gone out and bought a bunch of 12 packs of of Coca-Cola, spiced Coca-Cola, and I'm collecting them. So I have like sort of like like an end of the world apocalyptic stock supply of cola in my basement.
Was it a Dune tie-in? Because if not,
no, but missed opportunity.
Missed opportunity.
Yeah, apparently they discontinued Coca-Cola or spiced Coca-Cola, just like they discontinued Denny's Oscar nomination for Best Director. Too soon? I can't believe that guy's not nominated. Anyway, that's a story for another time. Let's get going here. Yes. Okay, so of course, yes, creepy cocktail. Make that at home. We'll try and put that online and put it on our Instagram so you can make it at home. And of course, Kells, our guest tonight. Over to you.
Yes, so let's check the resume. So our guest tonight stars in the last video store, which follows a young woman who happens to have a legendary cursed tape in her possession. When dropping off an old VHS collection at her local video store, she and the store's owner decide to watch the tape in question, awakening a long dormant curse which releases an array of killer cinematic villains into the real world. This nostalgic nightmare is not to be missed. Super fun. Not just saying that. You'll enjoy it. You'll love it. But that said, Kevin is also the founder and owner of The Lobby, which is a video store in Edmonton, Alberta. So horrifying movie lovers over 19 years, or for over 19 years, The Lobby has a huge catalog of rare horror and sci-fi movies. They also carry the classics, mainstream foreign, and just plain weird for your viewing pleasure. If they don't have it, just ask, and they do special orders as well. So we wanted to thank Kevin for joining us tonight. We're very excited to have him here today.
Awesome. Yeah. And we've got Kev in the he's in the green room. He's going to be
bring him in.
on the screen. When we come back, we're going to
Oh.
roll a couple things, including the trailer for Last Video Store.
Let's
And
do it.
if you have questions, get them ready, throw them down in the comment section below, and we will get to them and we'll include you as part of the broadcast. But until then,
Absolutely.
let's take a look at this stuff and we'll see you on the other side.
Blast off on your cinematic journey. Here at Blaster Video, over 3,865 movies in my store, all on VHS.
Welcome to Blaster Video.
For all your rental needs.
I'm not a customer. Do you know what movie this is?
Legend has it, the dreaded video nomicon haunting those who watch it. It's been lost for decades. This is that same cursed tape.
Should we check it out?
Oh no.
We're safe.
What is Caster gonna do? Is he just gonna smash in here and then murder us in this outhouse?
This franchise has a ton of creative kills, including an outhouse. Even if we die, taking it with us.
No. The goal here is to stay alive.
Yeah, okay.
We just experienced the power of cinema.
Black Fawn Distro. Movies, merchandise. Available now at blackfawndistribution.com.
Okay, and we're back, and we're with Kevin Martin from the Last Video Store. Listen, man, I know that you just got off work, and I know you just closed the store. Thank you so much for making the time for us. I know we're dealing with the time variance across Canada, as well as the technical challenges of Wi-Fi and fiber optics and whatever. But thanks so much for joining. How you doing?
Oh, not too bad. Can you guys hear me okay? Are we okay?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, absolutely.
My laptop crapped out, but luckily I have my phone on me, so I just switched over to my phone. So I hope we're all still good and golden here.
Yeah,
beautiful.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'd just say maybe if you can just adjust the volume there, if you can turn it up at all. But yeah, I mean, if we listen, this is live. We love doing this stuff live. We just think it's got so much more. There's nothing like live TV, right? So we just figured, hey, listen, it's got some pizzazz to it, and we figured we might run into some issues, but hey, listen, it's worth it because you are broadcasting live from the lobby in Edmonton, California, Edmonton, Alberta. And we just wanted to give our viewers and like a look at the store too as well. It's obviously almost 20 years in operation. Congratulations, man. That's awesome.
Thanks. Yeah, it's definitely a labor of love. There is no money in this at all, but what you lack in actual financial needs, a friend of mine told me once, you make up for it in cultural commodity, as in the people you meet and the amazing experience that come with having the video store.
Absolutely. And listen, having a video store is just like, I think that's every teenager's dream, at least any film fan who was a teenager wanted to own their own store. I think we all kind of come from that sort of late 80s, early 90s sort of era. And what made you decide to start a video store like all those years ago?
Well, honestly, I've been working in the bar industry for 25 years. Still do, to be honest. It was video store by day and DJing at pubs at night. But it was my attempt to get out of the bar industry, way back in 2005. But even back then, it was like, who opens a video store and expects to make money? But interesting story, though. A friend of mine originally had the shop for about a year. His name is Chris Pavoda, but he had to move down to the East Coast. Chris is now a filmmaker as well. He made a movie a few years ago you guys might know called Dead Dicks.
I know Chris. Yeah, he's a great. He's actually, I believe he moved back to Ontario.
Actually, I believe he lives in Hamilton as we speak. He left Montreal and is now living there. And
yeah.
Chris had to move in 05, and he's like, anybody wants to take over the store? And I'm like, this guy, me. I'm your man. Money? Not have any money. But luckily I had friends that paid me a loan and took over the shop and just kept it open long enough to pay off my friends, and wasn't expecting to be here almost 2 decades later. But as all the other video stores collapsed at Edmonton, realizing I was the last one left, I'm like, now I'm stuck with this. I'm like, guy, when you type in Wikipedia and the death of video stores in our city, and this odd looking face comes up, hell with that. I'm going to keep this dream going, baby loves.
Well, listen, that's one of the reasons we included a shot of you in our new 30-second ad, just because we just wanted to tap into that, because it's such an achievement to have us even just run a small business, let alone something that's as challenging as a video store, especially over the last few years. But however, having said that, I feel like, you are sort of this beacon, or one of the beacons out there where, people like us who love movies and especially the genre stuff and horror stuff, can kind of come somewhere where it's like, we can find a whole bunch of the titles that we want to watch. And I can't imagine, I know I need to get out there. I know that for sure. So it's hopefully in 2025, I'll be able to get out there to Edmonton and we'll hang out, man. We'll drink some spiced colas.
Oh, hell yeah. That's just it. I mean, every now and then when I think about closing, I wouldn't know what else to do in my life these days. I'm like, I'm not qualified for much else. If I knew as much about useless B-movie pop culture trivia, I'd be curing cancer right now. But this is my lot in life. It's what we do. It's like you said, it's every kid's young dream to work at a video store or record shop. And you can probably imagine, I get all these young kids coming in all the time going, Kev, are you hiring? I'm like, dude, you were just born in the wrong generation. I'm sorry. I mean, it sucks getting older. I'm 48 now, but growing up as a kid or a young adult in early 90s, getting a gig at a video store, a record shop, man, it was the coolest gig ever. You had expendable cash and it wasn't really a job. It was a way of life, and it still is a way of life for me. Obviously, if I would have had kids or a wife, I'd have to get a real job. But, luckily my cats are good, so I'm good, and I can keep doing this beautiful thing.
Yeah. Speaking of cats, Kells, you just got a new addition to your family over there. We were supposed to talk about this in the news segment, but we got I got too flustered. I got too flustered. But yeah, you've got a new little kitty over there, right? Named Boo.
I do. I have little Boo, and he's been busy he's been doing movie set stuff. He's paying his way in the household. He's paying his own vet bills, so that's always nice. But he's a champion. I don't know where he is right now. He's probably sleeping somewhere, but he's precious, and I love him to pieces. And I should have mentioned the news story. I'm sorry, Boo.
We'll get him writing press releases soon enough. But listen, but talking about writing stuff, if you're tuning in, thanks so much. We really do appreciate you tuning into this episode of Takeover Tuesday. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you've got a comment or a question for Kevin or a question for us, throw it in the comment section down below on whatever platform you're watching us on, and we will try your best to include you as part of the program. And of course, we're hoping we're going to talk a lot about Last Video Store. We're going to talk a lot about Kevin, and your how you got involved with the film and the history of that. And then on the flip side, on the back end of the program, we're actually going to talk about physical media, where we all kind of see it going. I think it's going to be a pretty robust conversation. I know I have feelings on it. Kevin, I'm sure you do as well. and Kells, you'll just tell us about your DVD collection, right?
My ancient DVD and VHS collection. Don't forget my VHS.
Yeah. So a couple, let's start throwing some comments up on the screen, Kells. I know we got a lot of people tuning in tonight, which is fantastic. But we'll kick things off, Kev. You're in the Last Video Store. Of course, you play basically like a meta version of yourself in a store that is not necessarily the lobby in Edmonton, but a store that was recreated, obviously, by the filmmakers to create Blaster Video, which was based on your store, but was created from scratch as a set. Where do you want to start with this story? Because I think it's so interesting. I just saw a clip that I think that you might have commented on, which listed you now in the on the list of like great clerks in or video store or music store clerks in film. You're part of that list now. What does this all mean? You mentioned you have your mug in on Wikipedia now with if the video store closes, but now you're in people's Blu-ray players, you're on people's shelves, in people's movie collections. Walk us through that, because it'd just be great to hear your take on it.
Yeah, I mean, it's very surreal. Obviously, that clip, that was from the bonus. It was a video essay done on the movie, on the Arrow Video, the UK and the US release. And a gentleman compared my character to, three of my favorite 90s movies, Clerks, Scream, and High Fidelity. And I was just, I got all fuzzy and warm and felt very flattered immediately. I'm like, oh my God, like now it's feeling real. But like I mentioned earlier, there's no money doing what I'm doing. But, when you love something, you just keep doing it because you wouldn't know what else to do. And even though the store hasn't made any money, what it did spawn, obviously, was I ran a film festival here in Edmonton for 13 years with some friends called Dead Fest. And we got to screen a lot of great, bringing guests. We had Michael Biehn and Daniel Harris and Henry Rollins come into town. And they're always like, oh my God, you have a video store? They want to check out the video store before we went to the movie theater. But I would never have met my directors, Tim and Cody, if it wasn't for the video store. Like the video store brought everybody together. We would have these random monthly screenings where local filmmakers make a short film, and whoever wins gets free movies from my store. Well, Tim and Cody kept winning every friggin' month because they're so And then one thing led to another, and we decided to shoot a series of short films in my real video store to play in front of the movies at our film festival. And then they started picking up traction, and it got picked up at other film festivals like Fantasia Film Fest and Fantastic Fest, and eventually South by Southwest. And then the plan was like, why don't we just shoot like a movie? Like 10 years of making short films with this camaraderie of friends, Josh, who plays Viper Jackson, and Tim and Cody, my directors. Like we've all been forever. And I call them my young friends because they're only in their 30s and shit. But like,
what do they know, right?
Yeah. Millennials, it is what it is, but that's okay. But it was our mutual love of like B horror movies and forgotten jams and that's the power of the video store. It brings people in here all the time. There's a whole backstory to this. One day I'll write a book about it. I figure my autobiography will be called blending in my nightclub for 25 years love and video store. I'll call it late fees and alcoholism. The struggles of a functional alcoholic in this world.
Yeah. Awesome. And so how did the so the idea obviously of shooting this movie, at what point were you sort of like, we can't, because obviously you'd thought about shooting it in the store itself.
Yeah.
But at what point were you sort of like, or the team, obviously with Tim and Cody and all the producers, like at what point were you like, no, we have to rebuild that. We have to build this as a set. How did that come to be?
Well, honestly, our producer Greg Jeffs lives out in Toronto, and he was one of our biggest. Greg saw our shorts 10 years ago, and he was the one really pushing us. You guys got to do a feature. Well, when it all came to be, Cody hinted with the idea of like, well, we should just shoot at the real store. But the problem is, and they're gone now, but people that live in Edmonton know that my store at the time was below. There was a daycare center above me, above this very roof. So kids upstairs, me downstairs. Now trying to film a movie with kids running around upstairs making noise, that would have been difficult. And then
Sure.
the idea of going to Ontario to film it, it was like we had a lot more. How do you say? Tax shelter incentives if we shot it in Ontario.
You didn't just come for the nice scenery.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Dear Lord, March of 2022. We were there for 4 weeks. I experienced all 4 seasons in those 4 weeks.
Yeah.
I live in London, Ontario, in a small military base called Petawawa. So I remember Ontario when I was a kid, but my God, your weather there is insane. I'm like, I know it's cold where I'm at, but dear Lord, like snowstorm, rainstorm. Now it's 20 degrees and sunny. Like it was just everything all at once, and like in like 15 days. But it was more for like we could get a crew out there, and supposedly it came down to, I assume, money, and but the idea of like, okay, we're gonna rebuild the real video store on the soundstage. When I flew in about 5 days for filming, I thought, oh, this is great. We're like doing a real movie. I'm going to show up and the store will be built. I'm going to walk into my store on the other side of the country. No, I walked in and there's Tim and Josh, who played Viper, and they just started putting the walls up like, hey, welcome to Hamilton, Kev. Pick up a paintbrush because we got to.
No rest of the wicked, right?
Just like, do it yourself again. But no, it was a pretty cool experience, regardless. And I remember this was like during the height of the pandemic too, 2022. So we were playing musical Airbnbs in the lovely city of Hamilton for the whole time. We did get shut down because my co-star Vanessa, she got COVID. Cody got COVID. Like we didn't know what was going on with the movie. We were like, oh no, we shot like 2/3 of it. Are we going to get shut down? Because it's really not up to us. It's up to the money people. But luckily, we shot enough footage, and what they saw, they're like, yeah, this is pretty good. We can afford to put these guys up in more Airbnbs for a week till everything calms down. So kudos to them for believing in us. But yeah.
Awesome.
Now, I have a question as well. Again, you talked about how they recreated your video store in Hamilton, which must have been a very kind of weird thing to be there, but be there. What was it like to play a fictional version of yourself in a fictional recreation of your store?
Well, I get that asked that a lot, especially people here in Edmonton that have been customers of mine for years. They're like, they watch the movie and they're like, well, that's just Kev being Kev. To a certain degree, I say what you saw on the screen is about 80% me. Especially the opening 20 minutes where I'm describing to Vanessa the plots of all the movies, like where I'm like, then that is me. That is straight up. I get all jazzed when like somebody grabs like Return Let Me Get Off My Shelf, like, I've never seen this. I'm like, oh, let me tell you. It was very surreal. If you guys remember the movie Wayne's World, and I'm sure you do, there's that brilliant scene where they're shooting that first episode in the soundstage, and Garth looks away and he's like, it's like we're in your basement, but we're not in your basement at all anymore, Wayne. And that's how I felt with the movie. The other big transition was shooting all the short films, and all of our shorts. I think that there's going to be a few, I imagine, on the Black Fawn release. I know they're on the internet anyways, but that was just, all of us buddies, like, hey, you hold the light and you do this, and we all took turns, to the first day on the movie set, I show up and the opening shot is literally, we shot in chronological order as best we could. So when I walk into the store and see Nyla for the first time, the first thing I realized, like, oh my God, there's like 10 people behind the camera. Like, this is like a crew behind there, and they don't know who I am. Like, they think I'm an actor. And I'm like, oh my God, talk about imposter syndrome. I'm like, dear Lord, because when the guys said they got the funding to make the movie, there was a part of me that was waiting for the other shoe to drop to say, hey, Kev, thanks for the real store and all the fun shorts did, but we got an actor to play you, So I was honestly waiting to hear that. But, Tim and Cody, bless their hearts, they were like, no, dude, it's gonna be you. Like you're doing this. And I'm like, okay, I can do this. Yeah, sure. But no, it was a very surreal experience. And like, like, yeah, the dynamics of the fake store, like dimensionally are the same. The couch is in the corner. My couch is in the corner. The TV is where you see it in the movie. The only difference is obviously we filled the store up with like 3,800 fake VHS tapes with fake titles. But yeah, it was very meta, to say the least. But the cool thing was the lighting guys and the grips that didn't know who I was, or the fact I had a real video store on day one we started filming. By the time we got to day 15, when everybody knew about, like, we've been doing this for years and there's a real video store back in the West, and they're like, everybody just got behind it. It was like a team effort. Like, dude, this is awesome, because, like I always joke, some people have kids to leave their legacy. Some people make silly B movies at what they did for a living. So well after I'm gone, that movie will be in the ether of cinema B movie madness forever. So,
and speaking of the movie, yes, you're right. We should have mentioned this off the top, but we didn't want to get we didn't want to get too into it. But yes, Black Fawn Distro is releasing Last Video Store in Canada. So we'll have our release coming out in March. So they'll be in people's mailboxes. I'm not sure the exact shipping date yet, but yes, it will be chock full of special features, and obviously feature our retro artwork as well, and lots of goodies. Of course, I think the blacklists that we did for pre-order, they're almost sold out. I think we only have a couple left for pre-order. We are capping it at a certain number. So thanks everyone for ordering that. And of course, if you want to check out Kev's some photos from the store, we actually did post some today on our Instagram. So head on over at Black Fawn Distro, check them out there. And while when you're on that app, give the lobby and Kev a follow too at Video Store Kev. Kells, Kev, you just mentioned the all the fake VHS and stuff like that. Kells, you had some insight into this and questions about the titles, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, you talked a little bit about having the short films, which are available on YouTube, it sounds like, and fingers crossed, of the special features. That's amazing. And the fake films include
wink, nudge, nudge.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Some great film within a film cameos. You've got like Astron 6, Jeremy Gardner from After Midnight and The Battery. You've got Lowell Dean of Wolf Cop, Roadkill Superstars of Turbo Kid. With all those films, with your endless vast knowledge of films and especially B films, did you have some input on any of the fake movie titles that were created? And if not, was there a fake movie, or even if so, was there a fake VHS movie that you're like, I wish that was a real movie?
There were a couple, actually. Now, we made a web series through Telus Film back in 2015. We won the Ampia, I believe, here in Alberta. And that a lot of people saw that we based a good chunk of what works in the movie off of that web series. The web series, if you haven't seen it, again, it's on YouTube. It's a 5-part series, and episode 1 opens up with me about to burn the store down because I've lost everything. And then a magical beta tape shows up, and I'm like, screw it, I'll play it. And it ends up, tape was sent by the movie gods who are angry at me for abandoning the movies. And instead of this stuff coming out of the TV into the store, I get sucked into the TV and bounce from one bad B movie to another. So when we were coming up with concepts of the B movies, Beaver Lake Massacre was in there. And I'm a very passionate 80s slasher fan. So that 100% was me. And people that know me know that 14th was always my jam as an 80s kid. And 14th Part 4 specifically, the final chapter with Corey Feldman and Crispin Glover with Tom Savini coming back. So
that's the best one too, right? That's
in the store. It's Beaver Lake Massacre 4. And that was very, very specific. And that was something that I was passionate about. And that's why. And yes, as a kid, I was a weirdo and I thought Jason was cool. Like, hence the relationship of me and Castor Creeley in the movie, where I empathized with him. But the one movie, if we would have had more time, more money, man, we really want to do Battle Bear. Battle Bear, I and Cody could have found a way to have this bear with machine guns in his paws, driving a helicopter. I'm like, just the visual of that would have been so ridiculous. But then, if you guys remember, the movie Cocaine Bear came out a year earlier, and I felt, this steals our thunder, because Battle Bear had been something we've been talking about for a decade, and we were all pumped to include it. But we thought, well, if we do it now with Cocaine Bear coming out, it'll seem like we're ripping on them, but that was not true at all. Like, I love my When Nature Attacks movies from the 70s. Day of the Animals with Leslie Nielsen is one of the greatest movies ever made. I don't care what people say.
If you don't like that movie, there's something wrong with you, right?
It's shirtless Leslie Nielsen going all macho machismo, fighting a grizzly bear in the pouring rain just so he can do horrible sexual stuff to this teenage woman that it's like, and this is Leslie Nielsen, Canadian treasure. Come on. But yeah, no.
Everyone gets their start in horror, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
People that I've seen at the last video store, they're like, "Are you guys going to make People Like Massacre? You guys should make People Like Massacre. That would be just brilliant." And having Matt Kennedy and Adam from Astron 6, and like you mentioned, something that Tim brings up a lot, Tim Rutherford, director, we talked about it when we finished filming and having Lowell involved and the RKSS guys help us out. I'm like, do we just make a Canucksploitation movie by accident? Like, as far as the new genre guys, like everybody just wanted to chip in, and Steve Kostansky showed up on set, and it was a lot of love, because I think the one thing we have to remember is I believe filmmakers that are between the ages of 30 or 25 and 50, they grew up on video stores. That was their film school. It wasn't necessarily film school. So there's always a soft spot, a universal appeal. And that's why, I mean, selfishly, yes, I have a video store and I want people to like the movie. But as far as a selling point, video stores are universal. Somebody in Japan can see this movie and go, I can't relate to the characters necessarily. Like, oh my God, a video store. We had video stores. People in Spain, Germany, you name it. You name a country, everybody had a video store, one way or another. I'm not talking about Blockbuster too, because they were the bane of the mom and pop video stores.
Yes, absolutely. And we're going to get to that after the commercial break, I think, because I got some thoughts on that too. Before we get there, I know that, obviously a big part of the movie, and of course, we'll try and keep it spoiler free for anybody that's out there that hasn't seen the film yet and is waiting to get the copy on Blu-ray. But bringing the villains to life, like you mentioned, just like how personal, like the types of the names of the movies, the titles of these kind of the fake movies, but how cool was it to kind of see some of these villains sort of like on set? You're acting with them, you're in the same scenes as them. Was there any part of you that was like did things just keep getting cooler and cooler, or were you just kind of fine with the whole process and knew kind of what to expect once you kind of got there?
Oh no, I mean, I nerded out like several moments when I first saw our friend Leland, who played Castor Creeley. When I first saw him walk out with the full Jason Castor Creeley costume on, I was super nerding out. I was like, oh my God, there he is! I couldn't wait to get. And I've known Josh, who played Viper Jackson. We've been friends for 15 years. But the first day I saw him walking, he'd been working out real hard for the last year. He got his butt all looking good. I mean, you've seen the movie. When he put on that bro jacket and the aviators and stuff, I'm like, that's my boy. How do you not nerd out? And that was a beautiful thing. I think most of the crew and everybody involved, everybody loved bad movies that we grew up with. So I think everybody was nerding out to a certain degree, because it was just such a silly concept. And then, yeah, like we talked about earlier with the fake video store set, there were a few moments where I'm sitting behind the desk in the set. I forgot I was on a movie set. And once you block out the cameras, I'm like, this is just another day at the office for me. I mean, mine crazy shenanigans, stuff flying up TVs, but no, I mean, it definitely, the inner child was there for me for sure. Yeah, I mean, if you can't get excited for that, then why are we doing this? Because it was a love letter for what we all loved, which is video store culture and bad B movies. So
yeah. we did one of the premiere. Yeah, sorry, Kells. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, just another question to open up to you. Speaking of, loving those B movies and having that in your heart and the excitement of seeing that, were you to pick real world movies that already exist and you were, be able to pull a character from a cult classic into the real world, what villain do you think would be the most difficult to conquer, and what character would you enlist to help you?
Well, that's a great question. I didn't know you were going to ask that one. That's great. Awesome.
I think any character that has supernatural abilities would be probably really difficult to conquer. So we're going to stick with the staples of slasher movies, the big kings, I suppose. Out of the big four, and obviously I'm talking Jason, Michael, Freddy, Leatherface from that era. I mean, Freddy would probably be the most difficult. Although technically we would pull him into the real world, so he'd just be like, old man bitch Freddy. So maybe he wouldn't be that hard to take out anyways. But as far as who would I call in for assistance on that level, well, I mean, look, if you were any kid that was the age of 8 and 12 growing up in the 80s, greatest moment of like as being a movie loving fan, 9-year-old Kev, front row center. I got to see whatever movie I wanted to in this small town Ontario. Didn't matter rated R or not. I was super spoiled, dude. I got to see like Predator opening night in the movie theater at years old. I got to see RoboCop opening night 10 years. I mean, I shouldn't be seeing these movies. 14th part 5, 6, and 7 all saw in the theater, right? And I'm all of like 11, but nothing. And I tell my younger customers whenever they go over the action section and they see, in my opinion, still my all-time favorite Arnie movie, Commando. When they see that case, I'm like, Commando, you have not seen the greatest Arnold Schwarzenegger movie of all time. And the reason I say that, and I think you know where I'm going with this, again, front row center, popcorn, soda, big screen, and there he is, carrying a log on one arm and a chainsaw on the other arm. I tell the younger generation, you guys know Arnold Schwarzenegger for many reasons now, and you've seen his old movies on streaming. But if you were a kid in the 80s and you got to see a movie like that in the theater, or Conan the Barbarian, he was a god to us. So yes, it would be Matrix from Commando.
Yes.
That man taught me that one man can kill an army of 300 people on a foreign island.
Yes.
Barely an inconvenience. He's fine.
Also,
I'm so happy to hear you say that.
85.
So happy.
That was 1985, right? I'm pretty sure. And that was like the height of like Arnold's like bigness too. Like he was like just like a box office superstar, and also just like a huge human, like just a massively huge.
Yeah.
You can make the argument that he was bigger in Conan, I guess, but I don't know if a lot of not enough people saw Conan, I think, at the time to realize how actually big he was.
Both on VHS, and I will to this day attest that the character introduction of Matrix and Commando is my favorite character introduction of all time, because again, he's carrying the big log and it's so intense, and the music's like ridiculous and like very didactic, and then it just like turns to him like turning around, he's like feeding a deer and eating ice
he's feeding the deer the ice cream. That's the best transition in all of action
so
movies.
Good. Oh my god, it's my favorite. I'm so happy to hear you say that, so thank you.
Awesome. Well, listen, let's
that movie, that was like the introduction of steel drums. Remember this?
Dun, 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 dun. Yeah.
I want to look up to see who did that. I think it's Jerry Goldsmith that did this music for that. I think
a lot of cocaine did that score, to be honest with you. I think it was just a big pile of cocaine that scored that movie.
Yeah.
Well, listen, on that note, let's take a quick break. Sorry, what's that, Kev?
Oh, I said you had some Canadian representation there too. You had Ray Dawn Chung, daughter of Tommy Chung, as the the love interest for Arnie. And honestly, like for all the great one-liners Arnie has done in his amazing career, that movie has the best amount of one-liners, the most of them hit. Cannot beat it.
Listen, I'll be honest. I mean, it wouldn't be the first time I've heard "Let Us Some Steam" Benner. I've heard that numerous times because of that movie. So. There's a special place in my heart for Commando, as well as chainmail. I think in that movie.
Yeah, that knit chainmail. Oh,
you need a bad guy to look badder. Just put him in some chainmail. You know.
Vernon Wells was saying that chainmail. They had somebody else cast, I think, and then he came on last. That's why it looks like it doesn't properly fit him, because it wasn't made for him. It was so it kind of jingles, but I mean, it worked. It worked.
Yeah. The leather pants with like the chain and the chainmail. He looks like a dominatrix gym teacher. It's my favorite. I love it.
If he went rogue, he looks like mercenary Freddie Mercury, and I love it.
Well, listen, we're going to take a short commercial break. We're going to come back with Kevin Martin, star of Last Video Store, one of the stars at least, and of course, owner of the Lobby in Edmonton, Alberta. And this is just a quick commercial so we can keep the lights on. But obviously, hey, if you want to order or pre-order your copy of The Last Video Store on Blu-ray from Black Fawn Distro, yes, there is an Arrow release, and we love Arrow. But if you do want to support a Canadian company as well, Black Fawn Distro's release of Last Video Store on Blu-ray will be coming out in March. And here's how you can order it at this website on the commercial I'm going to play right now. We'll be back in 30 seconds.
Distro. Movies, merchandise, available now at blackfawndistribution.com.
Buy Canadian.
Buy Canadian. That's
Yeah.
right. Buy Canadian from Black Fawn Distro, blackfawndistribution.com. We've got a brand new store over there. And of course, you can pre-order the Blu-ray of Last Video Store. And also, there's a couple of Blacklist packages left, which is our VIP Blacklist package. All kinds of goodies and extras in there. There's only a few left, though. So if you want one, go and order one right now because once they're gone forever and we're never going to have them again. So, but let's Kells, I'm going to ask you, question? Is that?
No, I was going to say, I think I have the last question because I have a feeling that this question I'm going to ask is going to like open up a huge can of worm conversations. So if you have something to say beforehand, then please do.
Okay, so just a quick thank you everyone for continuing to tune into this broadcast. And Kev, thanks for sticking around too. Appreciate you for sure. Listen to our audience. If you've got questions for myself or Kells or of course Kevin Martin, or about whatever physical media, the lobby, shooting Last Video Store, throw them in the comment section right now. Kells is going to take a quick peek and throw some stuff on the screen afterwards, and we'll see how many we can get to. We're going to go over our allotted. We didn't really have an allotted time. We had like an hour set up for this, but we knew like
that's never enough.
Three people, three humans discussing as many films as possible is not going to take the shape of an hour-long broadcast. So we're going into overtime today. But thanks for everyone for sticking around. And of course, please subscribe to our YouTube channel if you can. Like this video, leave a comment, let us know what you think. Let us know if you have any suggestions or constructive criticism. We're all ears. So, but let's get back to it. Kells, I'll give the mic to you. I'll give you the floor. What's the question that you think is going to open up the whole can of worms here?
So my burning question that I feel like between the two of you is going to be a big conversation is format wars: VHS, DVD, Blu-ray, or 4K.
All right. I'll chime in. I'm assuming I'm the oldest out of all of us here.
But yeah, you are. But I'm close.
It's weird having the Real Video Store. How a lot of my younger clientele are like, God bless them, but they're kind of like cinephile snobs. Like, hey, Kev, do you have this movie? I'm like, yeah, I got the Blu-ray over there. You don't have the 4K? I'm like, nah, man, I guess I can order it in for you. Like, well, I need the 4K. And I'm like, every now and then I have to bite my tongue because I'm like, dear Lord, your generation is so spoiled. You have no idea. Grew up on beta and VHS, and we couldn't.
Laserdisc.
I'll say this. Nothing in my lifetime when it comes to physical media was such an evolution or blew my mind away more than going from VHS to DVD. When DVD came out in 97, 98, I was working at H, and they fired me, by the way. I won't even get into that. That's a long story. It ended with, why don't you just open up the store? And I'm like, maybe I will. Maybe I will. But anyway, that was mind-blowing, dude. Like, you have to understand, prior to DVD, the idea of like, wait, I don't got to rewind the movie? You mean I can watch it and listen to the director talk about the movie at the same time? There are documentaries. There are deleted scenes. I'm like, holy shit. And I was a staunch VHS collector prior to that. In fact, on my birthday, I was so stubborn, I refused to do it. My friends bought me 4 DVDs, and they lent me a DVD player that weekend. Just lent me one for 2 days. And I'm like, you're not going to change me. Well, 2 days later, I'm like, dear Lord, I need to like steal from somebody. I need the first DVD player I can find. And back then they were like, what, $800-900 for a no-name brand? Like, it was nuts, right? So anyways, I got one. So then Blu-rays come out. And I remember when I opened the video store in 05, it was just DVDs. So I'm like, thank God it's not the 80s. I don't have to deal with 2 formats. Like, I can just go DVD. That's all there is. And then Blu-rays came out. I'm like, are you kidding me, dude? Now I got to double down in my store. And they came out, and I'm like, yeah, I guess the picture's slightly nicer. But it wasn't as mind-blowing to me. It wasn't as big of a deal. And then now we got 4Ks. And I'm like, Now, I got the 4K player here at the shop. I don't have a 4K TV. And I kind of refuse. And my friends know me. They're like, hey, Kev, do you want to come over and watch Jaws in 4K? I'm like, no. They're like, why not? No, that's my favorite movie of all time. And if it looks as pretty as I'm told it looks, then I have to break down and buy a 4K TV. And like, I mean, do I really need to buy Evil Dead for the 20th time in my life? Maybe. I don't know. Like, are the new bells and whistles on it? But for me, dude, like honestly, I've gotten to the point where like I think some movies look better on VHS, especially from that era. Like I don't need to be that clean. Did you guys ever buy your first big smart flat screen TV and throw an old movie and go, why does it look like it's a soap opera now? Like, you know, like it was shot on television, not.
Yep.
It lost something.
Yeah, it's like when you play like a N64 on a big screen TV and you're like, oh no, this is no.
Okay, so I have some thoughts to.
I don't need to see that. Or, you know, like people are like, oh, hey, how come all these reissues of Evil Dead 2, how come they never digitally remove the wire that you can clearly see on the eye flying across the screen? I'm like, because that's the charm. We know it's there, and we love the fact it's there. You know, I mean, that's why I don't, with all the CGI technology now, yeah, it looks more real, but there was something more charming about stop motion like monsters or rubber suit monsters. It was just cooler. And people were like, it looks fake. I'm like, yeah, but that's the charm. If somebody redid Jaws or digitally removed Bruce the shark and put a real looking shark in, I would be offended because that movie is so good that I don't care how fake the shark looks. It's a brilliant movie because everything else around it is amazing. And if you actually put a CGI shark in and add more action to it with the shark, I think it would take away from the entire movie.
Yep. Plus practical effects always and forever.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So fair points. Fair points. Now I will retort. I have a retort. No, but I think I couldn't agree with you more. Like I think like for me, at the tail end, like I was collecting VHS. Yeah. When I had probably maybe like, I don't know, maybe like 100 VHS. I didn't have a lot because I was a kid, right? I didn't have a lot of money, but I remember the tail end of VHS. And specifically, I remember this. There was an Alien trilogy box set. Kev, you probably remember it, and it came out, and it was widescreen on VHS. And it was all about like this is the director's original vision and all this stuff, and this was the way to watch the film. And we had never, like, I mean, as a kid, like I'd never seen that. Like you go to the movie, even when you went to the movies, like I didn't understand that. Like it was like this is the movie. It's a big, widescreen, and then on VHS, it's just they do pan and scans and stuff. Like I didn't understand that when I was 10, 11. So at the tail end, I bought that, and I was like, wow, it actually like feels like cooler watching it like that. So when DVDs came out, the thing I loved about it the most was one, the 5.1 sound, but also just the full picture of seeing that on a widescreen. And of course, TVs started becoming widescreen. I am a big proponent of 4K. I agree totally that some films don't necessarily need it. Like, Texas Chainsaw Massacre shot on, 16 millimeter. It's only going to look so good. However, I think it's a second sight release is supposed to be amazing, which I haven't gotten yet. But there are films that I've watched, like The Shining, looks like when I first got my 4K player, Kevin, I got to tell you, you got to get a 4K TV and just, they're cheap enough now that I think like it's like, I got the 4K in The Shining. I had my whole new setup and I put in the Blu-ray first, the Shining Blu-ray. And I was like, that shot over the water and stuff. And I was like, or over the island and whatever. And I was like, oh, this looks pretty good. This still looks pretty good. This looks pretty good. I took it out and I put the 4K in, and I watched the same sequence, and I sat down on my couch and watched half the movie. It looks like it's the colors, it's the coloring, it's that when on Blu-ray, what they did was they kind of amped up a lot of the contrast in a lot of those older movies to make it look like punchier and flashier, so they could have something else to sell that looked a lot different than DVD, right? And so on 4K, they've kind of pulled that back, and they've sort of recolor graded it back to kind of what it should look like in the correct context. So 7, I just watched, it just phenomenal in 4K. And I hate to say it to you, but like Jaws in 4K is pretty amazing.
That's why I'm watching. And don't get me wrong, like I love the fact that we live in a world as B-movie nerds where in my wildest dreams, I did not think we would have a 4K release of like Seth Green in Ticks, or like a 4K release of Adam the Invisible Maniac. I mean, dear Lord, like Vinegar Syndrome, and God, I love it. It's amazing how Vinegar Syndrome literally went from like 5 years ago, just dealing with adult films from the 70s and 80s, to picking up B movies that maybe Scream and Arrow were like, no, these movies are below us. And Vinegar just scoops them up like, not only are we going to take these movies, we're going to put them in 4K, and we're going to add a 2-hour documentary on top of that.
Yeah, they're amazing down there.
4K adult films from the late 70s. And I can attest, they're right behind me in my store. You know,
behind a black curtain, right?
I got to please what the people want. I will bring it. But I mean, dear Lord, they released Debbie Does Dallas in 4K. I mean, who needs that? I don't know. Maybe somebody does. You know, but no, like you're right. There are certain movies that in 4K I can only imagine, and I guess from a strictly financial point of view, I'm like, I know once I go down that rabbit hole, I'm just going to keep like, now I need everything in 4K. So I guess
it's a sickness.
And I'm just like, I'm telling myself, no, it's not that big of a difference, you know. But
I like the nostalgia of VHS for sure as well. And I think you're right. I mean, I watched I picked up Aliens in 4K. And the restoration job that they've done, they used AI to restore it and stuff. And most of the film looks really good, but it's the shots where the spacecraft like crashes, like the space shuttle thing like crashes, and it's clearly on a soundstage, right? But they've done so much clearing up and removed so much of the natural sort of grain of the picture and stuff like that. Like you can tell even more that it's like on a soundstage, and it takes you kind of away from that. I think VHS covered up a lot of that stuff. So it really depends on the film and the restoration job. But I do feel like some of them are some of the restoration jobs I think have done a really, really great job of just making sure that it's like the most accurate representation of what that film would have looked like in a movie theater. And which is, to me, like I like E.T. looks like $1 million. Like it looks absolutely unbelievable. So I don't know about Evil Dead. I have Evil Dead on 4K. I've watched it. I don't know if it would be very much different from the Blu-ray or DVD, to be honest, just because of how it was filmed. But I'll tell you something. Army of Darkness looks amazing.
That one here too. And yeah, I mean, and you know what? I'm sure there'll be another evolution after 4K, of course. But
3D.
Is it just like, okay, we've reached the pinnacle here, guys? Like, as far as how much better can we make these movies look? Don't get me wrong. I mean, you mentioned Texas Chainsaw earlier. Growing up, I remember the first time I rented Texas Chainsaw at like Bob's Video Store. 10-year-old me walking out with Dawn of the Dead and Texas Chainsaw, where they didn't care. Then Blockbuster came around and ruined all that. But I remember that beta release of Chainsaw or VHS, when Leatherface is chasing Sally through the woods, you can't see anything, like nothing. All you can see is maybe the gleam of the chainsaw every now and then. And then I think it was Dark Sky. They released that 4K restoration. I mean, it wasn't a 4K yet. And all of a sudden, I'm like, oh my God, like there's woods, there's I can see everything now. Like I didn't know they shot it this way, you know? But so that was kind of cool.
And count the rings on the trees.
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about, I mean, we've got a lot of comments coming in. Kells, I'm going to throw it over to you, I think, for the comments, if you can just keep an eye on those. Just
I am.
And if you got questions, statements, stuff that you need us to let, hey, am I right wanting 4Ks? Is Kevin right for not wanting to grab 4Ks because, you know, maybe it's better to watch on VHS? Or also, you don't want anyone to end up in a money pit of formats. Which I am like I have stuff like a big music collector too, and I got stuff on like CD and I got stuff on vinyl, like the same album. Like I don't know. It's like I was saying, it's an illness that I don't think there's a cure for. But speaking of illnesses, let's talk a little bit about Blockbuster, because I think there's a lot of nostalgia around Blockbuster. I think people miss it just because. I don't necessarily think that, like, because I agree with you, Kevin, like it caused a lot of pain and grief and put a lot of small mom and pop shops out of business, which is obviously never any good for anyone. But I do feel that people still, when they're talking about that, I think they're missing sort of the everyone says, remember going down to Blockbuster to get movies. And I think it's more so just like the memory of like kind of going with family or friends, picking out some flicks, grabbing some snacks, lots of sugar, lots of crap stuff, and then just hanging out and getting the pizza and you know, like is there something out there that kind of melds those two things together in a good way?
No, Banner, I mean, you're 100%. Because of whatever generation you're from, if you were a kid in the 90s, like let's say 8 to 12 in the 90s. I wasn't. I was already like, 20 something and living with my first girlfriend kind of thing. Blockbuster was your jam for sure. But my big issue with Blockbuster was their selection was astonishing when they first came to Canada. I think it was 89, 90 was when we first got Blockbuster. But the one thing is, they were very conservative, very family friendly kind of video store, right? So, because they caused the collapse of all the mom and pop video stores that were in their cities, and a video store I used to go to when I was a kid, believe it or not, it was called Mick Video. They actually had the golden arches and everything. Corporation had to shut down, but it was just but that was the kind of video store, and I'm sure we have many examples wherever we're all from in your cities. Those are the stores that carried the 70s exploitation, like stuff that like what is this, like body horror, Nazi exploitation, black exploitations, nun exploitation, like what are these weird movies, and like our young eyes to feast on and be like, dear Lord, what is this? Amazing. Doesn't matter if it's good or bad. The problem is when Blockbuster came out, these stores couldn't compete with them, and they also refused to carry these cool, bizarre flicks, for better or for worse, that these mom and pop shops carried. And that's my resentment for Blockbuster. They had the means, the money, but they refused to carry, like, ask Lloyd Kaufman about Blockbuster Video. I'm sure he'll have a thing to say or two,
Yeah, and part of that too was that their guaranteed rental thing, right? Which would take up so much shelf space. So if let's say Titanic came out, I think that was maybe one of the first movies they did that for, where it's like they guaranteed to have copies of Titanic in, so it would take up so much more shelf space than what they have now. Quick personal story about myself. I didn't like Blockbuster because I actually worked at Rogers Video years and years and years and years and years ago. And I worked there for just about 4 years. And we hated Blockbuster because they were our competition. But I typically, Coke and Pepsi, But speaking of Coke and Pepsi, I am enjoying this delicious Coca-Cola, spiced Coca-Cola.
The spice must flow, Benner.
And the only reason I'm doing that, Kells, is because Kevin mentioned Wayne's World. And I just... product placement, with these delicious Doritos. But listen, Coca-Cola, if you're listening, I'll take a spice rum, or I keep saying spiced rum because I want to put this in with spiced rum.
Yeah.
And Kells, maybe you can make a creepy cocktail with that and whatever.
I'm still saying, like, I don't know how it tastes different from Dr. Pepper, but that's just me.
It's just it's like the same. It's like the same. It's like the same ballpark. It's different,
Okay.
but it's got like a spice flavor. It tastes like a little. It's like nutmeg or I don't know, other spices that are in the Coca-Cola. And
the spice that's not pumpkin spice. It's like the other spice.
Yeah, it's got like the cool spice. Like the Dune spice. The spice must flow, and it must flow from the Coca-Cola Corporation into my basement.
If I
Anyway.
check from your amazing Spice Coke commercial, and you sold me, I'm going to go grab a Spice Coca-Cola.
Now, this is important, though. This is important. Do not get the Spice Coke Zero. It sucks.
Oh,
it has to be regular Spice Coke.
Coke all over again. It was a bad idea.
Like I feel like if you're going to go into a convenience store, Kevin, there'll only be like one can or one bottle left on the shelf, and that I feel like should be the setup for like a sequel, maybe to the Last Video Store.
Yeah. What I was going to say though, relating to Blockbuster and honestly the Last Video Store is, you guys remember when Netflix made the one season of the Blockbuster TV show that came out? You remember that? Okay. I was kind of excited, regardless of my personal feelings of Blockbuster. I thought it was really cool. They were making a TV show based around a video store. I thought, oh, this could be really cool. The problem was the video store literally, except for episode 1, I think, had nothing to do with the actual plot of the thing. It could have. It was a generic. Will they? Won't they get together? The main, female lead, and you had the wacky side characters. I'm like, this could take place in a coffee shop or a superstore, which ironically was the same writer as a superstore, which I love. I'm Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I'm like, how do the writers of Brooklyn Nine-Nine and Superstore, which are both great shows, make this show of a blockbuster and make it boring and bland? And whether people like our movie or not, what we really want to focus Last Video Store is the star of the movie is the video store itself. That is the star of the movie. That's what runs it. That is what the movie is all about. It's not about me. It's not about Nyla or the wacky monsters. It's the video store. And I think that's a Blockbuster totally missed the beat on. I don't know where I was going with that. But anyways, yeah, I hate a Blockbuster. Except
I remember there was a mom and pop shop as like a convenience store. And those were like my favorite places to go. And we found, me and my buddies back in the day, we found this convenience store that I think it was like 3 movies. I think it was 3 movies, 4 nights, $5 or something. It was some weird thing. So we'd always go in on Saturday night and we'd get 3 movies. And we got on a roll. This is before the cowbell skit on Saturday Night Live, but like we got on a roll of trying to watch all of the Christopher Walken movies, like all of them, like the bad ones, like Deadline. If you've ever seen Deadline, McBain, there's a movie called McBain with Christopher Walken. It is Kells. You gotta fish that one out. You gotta find that one. If I ever see it on VHS, I'll buy it for you. But like, it is the greatest. It is the greatest. It's like, it's anyway, there's a line in it where they're taking a picture and the guy, Christopher Walken, goes, "Say cheese." And then there's another character goes, he stops for a second. He goes, "More like say revolution." And it's like my favorite line, I think, in any of the history of film. It's the great, anyway.
I was going to say, like, I like what Kevin was saying about
tangent. I'm on a tangent.
You're on a tear. I like what you were saying about how, you know, the video store to the last video store is like New York to Sex and the City. It's the characters, the 3rd or 4th or 5th character of the film, because really, like what you guys were talking about, the video store as a place and as a locale is something that's so precious to every movie fan out there, whether it was something that was like a small local store, or like for me, there was a video store that I fell in love with when I went to university in Waterloo. There was a store called Gen X that they sorted the films by genre, by country, and by director, which perfection. Like I found so many bizarre films that way. And like as taking a couple of film courses, like it was perfect for that, because if I needed to find something for an East German cinema course, I would just like stumble around and be like, okay, there's Werner Herzog. And like, it was perfect for that. And it still devastates me to this day that it's no longer open. So I think that having that video store character is so personal to everybody, and it's such a universal experience, even while it's dramatically different for everyone's experience. So I think that's really wonderful. And do you have like, I'm assuming you have a cast of like regular characters that come into your store on a regular basis. Do you have a lot of new faces of people that like come from outside Edmonton to check it out, or what's your clientele like? I'm kind of curious.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I remember when I first opened, I thought, being naive back in 2005, whenever all the video stores were around, I was just going to pick the most insane and out there movies. I didn't want to compete with Blockbuster or Rogers or the other stores. Now I'm bringing in stuff that I would never brought in 10 years ago because it would have been considered too mainstream, but it's not mainstream anymore because you can't find the stuff anymore. I get a shipment. I get about 120 new movies a weekend. And I get my stuff from the U.S., Australia, and overseas because we just don't have it. My number one selling movie and renting movie last year, believe it or not, was Spice World, the Spice Girls movie. I kid you not, because you cannot get it in North America. I don't know if it's a music right thing. I brought in 1 copy for myself. I posted on my Instagram because I thought I was the only like Spice Girls. Yes, it's a thing of mine. Nostalgia. And
it's a great movie.
You're like, Kev, can you get me one? I'm like, yeah. I thought I was the only weirdo. I sold 98 copies of Spice World last year. It's insane. In a store known as Cannibal Holocaust as my number 1 movie. Spice World was number 2 last year. But
Kevin, sorry, isn't that movie like not available on even Blu-ray, or it's not available? It's only available on DVD or something like that. It's some weird thing. It never even got to the later on formats.
Yeah, I know. Again, maybe it's a music right thing. But my clientele, like when I first opened, I thought, okay, it's gonna be 18 to like 20 something year olds that are into messed up movies. No, like I get all walks of life. My video store, I've had music videos filmed here. I've had wedding photos filmed here. Baby photos have been shot in my store. Because it means a lot to the community where I'm in Edmonton here. Yeah, I mean, I'll get an older couple like in their 60s maybe, and I'm thinking, oh, maybe they're in the wrong place. But just because they're from a different, they still have horror movies, but they're looking for the old Hammer movies that they grew up with, or like, it's all about different ages and genres. And I love the hunt. I love being able to help people track down movies that like they tell me they can't find any streaming sites or nobody carries them. And even if I haven't heard of them, I'm like, well, if I can afford it, I'll do my best. I'll bring them in, like I'd say half the stuff I bring in is what I want to bring in. The other half is just talking with people. And like you mentioned earlier, that's the beauty about if you're on a streaming site, and I say this all the time, you'd be scrolling for 45 minutes. You're like, fine, I'll give this a watch. If you're not in within 5 minutes, you're like, I'll get back to it. Odds are you never will. But if you make the effort to leave your house, come to your local video store, peruse the shelves, the dusty old shelves they are, and pick 3 movies. You got them for 1 week. Three movies for $10, by the way, kids. You might pick the 3 worst movies of all time. You know what? You're going to watch all 3 of those movies no matter what, because you A, have to return them, and B, even if they're terrible, you get to bitch to me how bad they were. It's all about human interaction with your fellow movie nerd, and that's the power of the video store. I have a sign when you walk down the stairs in my store. It says, no politics, no religion, only nerd talk. That's all that's allowed in my store. And I know my customers. So I'll know if there's 2 gentlemen in here. I'll know one guy who's a very conservative, right-wing kind of fella, and the other person is a very left-wing, progressive, vegan person or whatever. They don't know about each other. I know that about them. But all they're allowed to bitch about is which Sleepaway Camp sequel is the best. And it just shows there is human connection if you remove the rest of the crap. And the video store is a powerful escape for that. I'll tell you, during the pandemic, when everything was locked down, I would have lost my mind about this store. This store was a savior to me. Gave me an excuse to the house, and I couldn't let people in, but people still wanted to support the store. They would be texting me movie lists, and I'd meet them outside. And I'm like, here you go. And business was good. I'm not going to lie to you, because they were burning through this. You can only watch so much Tiger King during the pandemic,
Tiger King lasted me a day, and then I had to pull out some movies and watch them.
I would go on weird tangents under a pandemic. I'm like, you know what? This week I'm gonna watch every Roy Scheider movie I can think of. Like we all had our little things. I had a buddy that challenged himself to watch every Nicolas Cage movie during the pandemic.
Amazing.
Now, that takes a lot more effort than you think. It's truly, but I'm sure we all had our little rituals here. Also, I apologize for my funky camera. My phone's dying, so I got against the charger. So I got a manual.
Well, listen, we won't keep you too much longer because, I know you want to get home and off to the rest of your life. But listen, I think where can people find you? Online? Obviously, we'd like to people if you're tuning in right now, follow you online on Instagram. But how should people find you online? What's the best way to get in touch with the lobby?
Honestly, Instagram is my favorite. I don't do TikTok. What can I say? You're like, Kev, you need to start a TikTok account. I'm like, dude, I'm almost 50. I'm not doing that. Okay. Like, someone wants to run it for me. Fine. But my director, Cody's like, you got to start a TikTok. You can do reviews of movies. I'm like, yeah, no, just come to my store. I'll give you an in-person review of a movie. But honestly, Instagram is the best. I love Instagram because there's no BS in there. I post daily on Instagram of, hey guys, here's what I watched at the video store today. And usually it jogs people's memory. It's like, wow, I haven't thought of that movie forever. And like, can I grab it from you tomorrow? So yeah, video store Kev. There is a Facebook group page for the shop on Facebook, which I hate Facebook, but small business, you need it, right? We got to do what we got to do. It's the Lobby DVD shop on White. And there is a website for the video store. And the website, which has some short films on it and updated of what the new and exciting cinema that's coming in the shop. And that is simply thelobbymovies.com, all one word. And honestly, where I really want this people to get a hold of me? The next time you guys invite me on, we can talk about more awesome cinematic gold because, man, I just feel these things go so quick all the time. I mean, I could just keep talking and rock and roll. But,
listen, me too, Kevin. That's why I actually I convinced Kells to come co-host the show with me because she's the one that keeps me in track and keeps me on schedule and that sort of stuff. Thanks, Kells, as usual. But listen, before we go, one last question I wanted to ask, just because it happened recently. I think it caught us all by surprise. A bit of sad news, but also a little bit of a time to reflect on a career of genius and artistic accomplishment, and which is David Lynch.
Yeah.
And of course, just recently passed away, left a long filmography of interesting characters for sure. But did you have any final thoughts or favorite, just any, what are your thoughts on Lynch's career and maybe what it meant to you?
Well,
you got the Twin Peaks shirt on, yeah.
Yeah, it didn't matter if you didn't quite understand or were not a fan of David Lynch. One thing most people couldn't deny is, I know it's been thrown out there to death. He was a visionary director. And I have my personal favorite David Lynch movie, and I think we all have different ones. And mine is Lost Highway. But Lost Highway has always resonated with me. I love how Lynch fucked with us years later. Like, what was Lost Highway really about? Well, it was my thoughts on the O.J. Simpson trial. Really? Now,
yeah.
And also, it's a shame he only got nominated for one Oscar, and I'm sure you guys know it was Best Director for The Elephant Man. He didn't win. I'll tell you, I don't know when the last time you guys watched The Elephant Man was. I can't watch it without bursting into tears. I'm such an emotional guy that way. I saw it when I was a kid, I cried. Saw it in my 20s, cried. I'm like, I can't watch this movie anymore, man. It always chokes me up. But most importantly, when they announced the third season of Twin Peaks was coming out, I hadn't watched the original run since when I was in high school. I rewatched it. I'm like, has this aged well? And dear Lord, has it ever stood the test of time? Watching David Lynch is like watching a fever dream, and it's super sad that he passed on. And I will say, within an hour after his death was publicly announced, I had to put a post on my store saying, if you're coming to rent or buy David Lynch movies, don't bother. I am out. Like, they were gone. Everything was gone. And this week, they just, and timing is weird. This week, it was already announced prior, they're releasing a brand new Blu-ray box set of all 3 seasons of Twin Peaks, including Fire Walk with Me, with 20 hours new bonus footage. It's called Twin Peaks Z to A or A to Z. And so I got a buckload of that coming out Thursday. But yeah, dude, that was a heartbreaker. Real quick, my phone's at 8%, but I did want to say this, guys, and please talk about, even if I cut out, your opening segment of headlines. You talk about the substance, which is my top 3 of the year for sure. Hundreds of Beavers, by the way, my favorite. I don't know if you saw it.
Yes.
It's Buster Keaton meets Looney Tunes. It's amazing. But how come nobody's talked about the return of Matthew Lillard and, shockingly, Scott Foley being cast in Scream 7? I've been saying that's jumped the shark so long ago. We all wanted Stu Macher back. In movie world, that TV did not kill him. 7 stabs to his chest did not kill him. Stu's the mastermind. Bring back Matthew Lillard. They're doing it. I still think it's going to be some cheap flashback dream thing like they would Skeet Ulrich, but I'm hoping I'm wrong. You know what? They say fan service is a bad thing. Not necessarily all the time. Give the fans what they want and bring back Stu, and it looks like you're doing it, or at least an evil twin brother. And man, Kevin Williamson's on board, and maybe Love. This is going to be a good time. And I haven't probably Scream 4. So it's been a hot minute. Guys, I love you, but my battery's on toast. I want to keep talking, but thank you so much for having me on.
Hey, no
Thank
worries
you so much
at all.
for coming in. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Kevin. Appreciate you. And of course, everyone, please follow Kevin Martin and the lobby on Instagram at Video Store Kev. And of course, check him out in the last video store. Of course, the brand new retro horror flick from Black Fawn Distro, which is going to be dropping in stores and also in people's mailboxes in March 2025. So, Kevin, thanks so much again. Appreciate everything that you do for us, as well as everything that you do for film fans and movie collectors and everyone else out there. The lobby in Edmonton, Alberta, a bastion of independent film, as well as all your regular films that you can get there too, which are not on your streaming services. Nothing wrong with that, but physical is sometimes always practical effects are the way to go, right, Kells? And so are practical movies that you can pick up from Kevin and other video stores and other mom and pop shops across the country. And go support those stores because they're small businesses and they'd appreciate your business. Until next time, I'm Benner. This is Kells to my left, the other side of me.
To a direction.
And of course, Kevin Martin from the last video store in the lobby. Thanks, Kev. We'll have you back on again. Maybe we'll have you back on for a hot stove where we talk some Scream stuff, some Evil Dead stuff, something like that, where we can get in on it.
Anytime. Real quick, Better. I just want to say, I got a lot of Black Fawn in the video store, just so you guys know, well represented. And number 2, just a small thing. when people ask how would you describe the last video store, I always I don't want people to be disappointed if they think it's a horror movie. I say it's not a horror movie. The best description I've come up with it is a B movie video store adventure film. And if you look at it that way, I think you'll get more out of it.
Well, on that note, everyone check it out when it drops in stores and in your mailbox coming soon. And of course, yes, well, you know what? Maybe I'll include that on the back of the movie.
Oh, dude. Oh, by the way, you guys,
Cool.
I think you are, right?
What's that?
You guys mailing me a copy? I can't remember if.
Yeah. Well, no, you don't get one. No, we'll get some stuff out there. So for any of your fans listening right now, or any of your regular customers, we'll make sure we get copies out there to the lobby too, so you can put it alongside the Arrow release, which and we love Arrow to death too. So it's kind of a little bit of a dream for us too to have two movies like that, or two releases side by side. It's a cool thing and a cool vibe for us too. So nothing but love for those guys.
Oh yeah, I'll send you a picture of. But man, again, I keep on going here. Every time I get a movie in and I know the director or I find him on Instagram, they love nothing more when I take a picture of the movie with a rent-a tag on it from a real video. They lose their mind. You guys see the coffee table last year? The amazing. Yes, I took a picture. I number one, I had like 5 copies already. I found him on Instagram. He nerded the shit out. When he saw it, he messaged me like, "Oh my God, my movie's in the video store in some country I've never been to." But like, it just means a lot to film it, and I think that's super cool. And hey everybody, if you haven't seen the coffee table, watch Going Blind. It is fantastic. And it's
best dark comedy.
Yeah, the remake's coming out right away. So there you go.
Awesome. Okay, on that note, we're good.
Support your local video stores, Be Kind, Rewind, and good things.
Awesome. Thanks everyone for tuning in to Black Fawn Distro's Takeover Tuesday. Of course, we're coming back. We're going to do one of these every month. That's the plan. We're going to have someone on as a guest, and we're going to talk all things movies, genre, filmmaking, horror, whatever. But until next time, I'm Benner. This is Kells. Kevin, thank you so much for joining us. And if you are listening to us and are watching on YouTube, please remember to give a thumbs up to this video and give us a subscribe and tell your friends. And hopefully we can get some more subscribers and we can start just doing this more often. I guess that's the plan. So till next time, we'll see you soon. Anything to add, Kells? We're good?
Nope. We're good.
Right. I should say this before we go. I will say that the Spice Girls segment was brought to you by Coca-Cola Spiced Cola.
Spice up your life.
All right. I'm out. See you guys later. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
And that does it for another episode of Black Fawn Distro's Takeover Tuesday. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, please remember to like, follow, share, and subscribe, and help us spread the word about the program and our incredible guests. If you're interested in grabbing some more information about Black Fawn Distribution or want to check out our film titles and merchandise, you can find us online at blackfawndistribution.com. We'd also like to thank our sponsors: Wellington Brewery's Hellas Lager, Deadly Grounds Coffee, Twisted Teas, and of course, Black Fawn Distribution. Just a reminder, you can always catch Black Fawn Distro's Takeover Tuesday live on Facebook, YouTube, and our other social media platforms. Or pick up one of our retransmissions on any of the major streaming platforms. Until next time, I'm your host Benner from Black Fawn Distro, and we'll see you soon.